much for the heartfelt words. Now I shall request Mr. Rashid Banji to say a few words. And although he is amongst the first few PhD students of AKR, he said that he will actually talk about his later days after retirement at Jadavpur.
As Narayan just told that the time is limited, will depend 4 minutes to 5 minutes, anyway will try. Mainly I will concentrate on, as has been told by Narayan, that the later period in his life. Actually, in the later period in his life, a very few years, he spent as a visiting professor of the Relativity and Cosmology Research Center in the Physics Department of Jadavpur University. Actually, that center was established by the then Vice Chancellor S.K. Sen, and he invited Professor RayChaudhuri to be present in the center as a visiting professor, and it is really interesting to know for all of us that as a visiting professor he was never absent. Particularly on Tuesday every week we used to meet, and Professor RayChaudhuri was always present on Tuesday every week whenever there was a lecture, a seminar, either by the insiders or by the outsiders. And it is not only that he was simply present, but actually he guided all the members of the Relativity and Cosmology Research Center at Jadavpur University with his suggestions, problems and advices. And what happened? Actually, this Relativity and Cosmology Research Center, we had many activities. We used to arrange workshops. We used to arrange many workshops and other gatherings, academic gatherings, in which he was always present and encouraged all of us. Particularly, I should mention that he was not simply inactive as a visiting professor, he was very much active in the department, because possibly all of us know and will remember that in the last few days he did a very excellent work on the singularity in the cosmology. After the famous equation of the relativistic cosmology, that singularity problem, that in the last days, that is in the end period, he did some very important work on the singularity-free solutions. What were the conditions that cosmological solutions will be singularity-free? It was mainly based on Senovita's work, who published a few papers at that time on singularity-free cosmological solutions. And we very much remember Professor RayChaudhuri as one of our guides, advisors, and certainly in 2005 actually he departed, and we are very much grieved, and we thought that we had lost our advisor, our always who protected us from all sorts of academic difficulties, who solved for all of us all sorts of academic problems and any kind of difficulties in our academic field. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir. So now I will request Mr. Polash Paul to say a few words.
I have recalled the memory of AKR so many times at so many places that I almost have the feeling that I have nothing new to say. I am only saying with the hope that some people were not present in all those occasions where I recounted his memory. So I was just trying to think whether there is any interesting story about him that I haven't told in a public gathering. And I thought there is one story that I actually thought of in this regard. This thing happened in 1974 when the admission for new students were going on. And also at that time there were the students wing of certain political party who were very strong in the student union of our college. And so they actually circulated a questionnaire among the aspiring students, and the students will have to answer. So some of the questionnaires looked very reasonable, like what are your extracurricular activities, because the students' union would have to know. But some of the questions were really beyond their scope. And one of these things, not 74, sorry, 75. One of these questions is, what do you think about the Prime Minister's, was it 20-point policy? The Prime Minister Indira Gandhi at that time had this 20-point program. And so, what is your opinion on that? So there was a student, I wouldn't identify the student, who wrote Dhappavachi. This is a problem. So, for whatever reason, after a few months, the student was admitted, but the union people kept alert eye on him that this guy is, you have to be careful about this guy. So, after a few months, something happened so that there was a problem, there was a quarrel, and it was actually more than a quarrel, there were also hands moving at that time. And suddenly, and it was happening in this corridor outside, and AKR came out to pacify the things. And then the leader of this student union said that, you don't know what he has done. What? I said, we asked this question and this was his answer. AKR heard it. He said, ছোটর মধ্যে গুছিয়ে ভালোই তো। So the answer is this, it's a very short and to the point answer, and they like this kind of answer. So at that point these people just did not know what to say, and then I have seen this kind of pacifying exercises carried on by AKR some other times also. I have described it before and there is no time to describe all of them here. But there is now a different kind of incident now I want to tell. There is one time I saw AKR very embarrassed. It happened right here. AKR was sitting here and I was here. And it was a new, freshers welcome in the department. So the new students and also the old students were sitting here, and we were having one thing after another. And at that time, one of the things which are regular thing is that I would sing some songs. So I was there singing song, and I remembered the song. The song was Ogo Amar Sravon Tori, Ogo Amar Sravon Mekhen Khea Tori Machi. And AKR always liked my songs very much. I'm very proud to say. So he was sitting here and he was completely absorbed in the song. And it was going on. And then, okay, the first few lines, Dom Dora went by, and he was still absorbed. And then the Shanchari, and then the last part. The last part is Tai Tomari Shari Gani, Shei Akhi Tar Monea. And suddenly I was extremely embarrassed. I looked at him and he was just like this. I said, please delete my previous expressions. I was singing there. I couldn't think very much about what he might have been thinking at that time. But later, we had a discussion. And we had our friend, Dipankar home. Is he here? No, it's not here. Dipankar home, if you don't know him, I will tell you, he was an expert in describing situations which have never happened. So he was saying, if you know what happened, when he was saying, "Oh, amar sabun mekhe khiyatori machi udas noy, dakai noy, bujha noy, bhari noy," in his mind he was thinking about Maxwell's equation, Einstein's field equations, and so on and so forth. And then you said, "Chhe aankhi taraf mone aaye." Oh my God, it's a fall from heaven. So he was embarrassed. He was not really thinking about in that light. That is the thing you have to understand. I said, okay, I understand. So time is short, and I will finish just one. There are some things I thought that, I mean, I am now also old. Just this today when I was coming here, some younger people, when I was coming by bus, they actually, woke up and said, "Sir, please sit down." An elder person. So there are some things that I will miss about it. I mean, miss means not things that I have seen, things that I haven't seen and I will not see. One of the things was, I have never seen teaching a quantum course. He was always teaching classical mechanics. I was just talking to my friend Amitabh Lahiri there, and he said that to them he taught quantum mechanics. I would have loved to be there, but that will not happen. Other thing is that I would have loved to see him use the projector. How he would deal with it. Okay. And okay, but this will never happen. And one thing that of course could not happen because of the technology, if we could have some video recordings of AKR's lecture. I know I can see a lot of faces, I can see a lot of heads doing this. I mean, those things cannot be described in words. If you are not there, you don't know what it is, and I have no way of describing them. They were such majestic things that they are beyond any description.
Thank you, Palazar. Thank you very much. I think there should be a correction, Palazar. The anecdote, the first anecdote you talked about, happened in 75 rather than 74. In the year of emergency.
Yeah, I actually.
The rest is fine.
No, I actually get that.
Oh, I see. Thank you. Okay.
Yes, you are right. 75. You got it, right?
Yeah. So, no, I would request, it was a Vishwarup who was there. Vishwarup, say something, and in the list that I have, Vishwarup is the youngest one.
Just like the previous speakers, I also had the rare privilege of being a student of this department during an era not just represented but actually heralded by IKEA. And actually that era invariably brings in a few other related names such as those of Amal Kumar and Hemendranath Mukherjee. Such persons not only charge the physics atmosphere here, but also clearly establish themselves as emblems of personal integrity, intellectual honesty, and academic genuineness. To be very frank, most of us could not become what they wanted us to be. But in the process, our lives were incredibly enriched through their sheer association. Such enrichment could take place largely because of one trait of AKR, namely, he reposed an enormous amount of faith on the younger generation. For instance, there was once a panel discussion in the 1980s when I was a PhD student in Kolkata to talk about the fate or crisis of physics studies in this part of the country. AKR was the chairman of the panel discussion. There, one very well-known physicist spoke extremely disparagingly of the students of that time, I mean, basically our generation, and very dismissively said, nothing is expected of this part of the country because students have wrong attitude, no focus, and actually they lack in ability and everything else. IKEA, as soon as he was done, right afterwards, invited students from the audience to respond to such criticism and defend themselves. But actually the strongest defense was provided by IKEA himself in his capacity as the chairman when he spoke. He spoke, many people know, as Paul also said, in very few words he would speak with incontrovertible logic, and he literally shredded those criticisms into pieces. He tore them apart, and I clearly remember that myself and a few of my peers, contemporaries, were practically moved to tears, just thinking how much faith our teacher had in us, and wondering if we were really worthy of it. I just end by describing a second-hand story. It is not my personal experience, very similar to the one Paul described, but I don't know whether there is an inaccuracy, but I am very, very willing to believe this because this shows again this other part of this persona. It went back to the politically turbulent days of the 1970s, when in one day I heard that in this lecture hall complex, Paul might have been a witness to this, so any inaccuracy please condone it. On the other side of the lecture hall, apparently, two groups of politically warring students were just an inch away from extreme violence. IKEA somehow appeared and stood as the dividing wall between these two groups. As far as I understand, he shared the political view of neither of the two groups, but he stood there just like a rock to prevent violence and resolutely said, if you have to touch or hit each other, you have to do that over my dead body. And according to at least one eyewitness, IKEA appeared to be 10 feet tall at that moment. Well, all I can say is that no degree of decadence or degeneration can affect this department so long as the memories of such a person is kept alive. Thank you.
Thank you, Vishnu. Thank you very much. So now I would request Professor Jishnuda to say a few words. Jishnuda was not only a student but also his colleagues in this college. He was my teacher when I was here at the school.
Well, I like to follow Bala. He was one of my most favorite students. And born on the lighter side. He actually, I joined in 1961 and Ekar also joined here as a teacher in 1961. So he was teaching us. But the other thing that happened is that we were very lucky. Hugo is here and I think I saw Sandeep also. Yeah. We went to South India for an excursion with him. So how long were we there? About 15 days we were with him. 10 days, 15 days or so. It was a daily thing. Yeah. Because every day he used to take us down. He used to take us around and all kinds of things would happen. So one day what happened is that I was there and another he saw the writing of another. He wanted to be here but he couldn't because of some problems with his daughter in the United States. He and I don't know if Raghu was also there. We were jaywalking in the streets of Bangalore and the police caught us. They said that you have to go to your, who brought you here from Calcutta? Said that we have our official. We take you, they put us in the police car and they took us to like you did. So then he went there and said that these people are jaywalking in the street. They don't care for red light or green light. So they said that in Calcutta they are doing it all the time. Calcutta is a bigger city. Bangalore at that time was very small. So Calcutta is a bigger city. How can they do that? Then actually said that of course they have done a very bad thing. They have never crossed the road unless the sign was red and all that. But they said it's true. You know, you can get up, you never care about the walk. But then they sort of released that. Shouldn't we see him? He was also there in that thing. Then when we were coming back, as Ramji said, he used to read lot of things. He read, as she said, he read all of Rabindranath Tagore. But I never imagined that he would read some of my poems. Then when we were coming back on the train, he said that Vishnu, you have enjoyed this trip, so you must write a poem. And I want to see it published in poetry. So that was a very big personal tribute for me from the greatest man I ever met.
Thank you very much, Vishnuda. Now I would request Prashant Ranjan to say a few words.
I will try to be brief, but when we joined this college in 1965, more than 50 years back, AKR was still not back from Maryland. And we were told at the end of the first year that Shyam Sengupta was going away, so the people in the batch previous to us said, you are in trouble. Who will teach you thermodynamics? Without SS, there cannot be thermodynamics. And then we saw AKR. He walked in, almost we could say he waltzed in, his buddhi and Gupta, impeccably dressed as always. And he taught us thermodynamics. He generally used to follow Fermi, but we could find a few cases where he had his own methods of derivation, and he always did everything from first principles. In his what we heard him say also, he was mentioning about going back to the fundamentals. So he believed in starting from the fundamentals, and he taught us that. And in the BSc final year, he taught us quantum physics. In MSc, he taught us classical mechanics. At that point of time, relativity was being taught by Professor Datta, who is a retired head. But something happened and they decided that no, he would not be teaching us. And someone else was given, whom I don't want to name, who probably didn't understand the basic principles of relativity. He heard that we were in trouble. So along with classical mechanics, he taught us general special theory of relativity, and even gave us a little bit of introduction to the general theory. He said, if you want to work on this, go along these lines, you can always come and talk to me. I remember him working on the board using the two blackboards, and one day in a classical mechanics problem, he was not able to solve it. He didn't come really prepared, mugging up something. Unlike Professor Ghoshal, who used to always come absolutely prepared to the last digit of the the better bisector mass formula. He had everything. But I found out later that he had it in his pocket also. But Professor RayChaudhuri, this was not his way. And he was not able to solve it. The hour was over, the next hour was over, it was not solved. When the solution struck him, another day he just walked into the class, it was someone else's class. He took over the board, he took over the class, he came to the solution, it was an elegant, perfectly elegant solution done very briefly. At the end, everyone almost clapped. I mean, the applause in the class was not really known those days. And even the teacher whose class he had usurped, I am sure could have clapped. And then after a long gap, I met him again when I was in the civil services. We had the interviews for the state civil service exams in the BSc, and he was the academic member. And I had the honor of sitting with him on interviews, I think for 5 consecutive years, maybe 3 or 4 days every year. And then it was that I found out the extent of his reading and what he does, how he reads the newspapers and analyzes what's happening. If someone had told me when I was a student, he was really very fond of me. When I was a student, someone had told me that he reads literature, he enjoys philosophy. Yes, one could understand the big of real tie-up between physics and philosophy, but literature, and that he goes into social issues from newspapers. I frankly would not have believed the person who wrote this, but I saw him sitting next to him day by day, and I did see some of his, a little bit of his famous sense of humor. Once I remember there was some physics master's first class holders who used to come for the interviews. And someone came from Burdwan University who was a first, and he was not able to answer. The particular question which he was wanted, with hence also he was not able to get there. There was someone from North Bengal, he was not able to get there. In the afternoon, there was someone who was supposed to be from Presidency College, he didn't appear. So AKR went across the table and told me, Prashant, this fellow has saved us. At least the other members think that the student from Presidency would have got it. The others did not. That was AKR, and a great man. I have not met a greater teacher, but then many of you have analyzed your teacher, so you would know that I don't need to repeat that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I would now request Mr. Partha after the Partha incidentally was not his student and not a formal colleague as well.
Like Narayan said, I am really an ardent admirer of him. My association was very brief, only a couple of years towards the end of his life, unfortunately demise. But I did happen to go through his work to some extent, even before I got to know the man. And I was absolutely flabbergasted. I'll just give you a story which I've said to many people, and I still am fascinated. The first major work that AKR did was before the RayChaudhuri equation. He wrote a paper on what is called a Schwarzschild singularity. Now, this paper was in response to a paper by Albert Einstein, in which Einstein had said that his conclusion would hold beyond any reasonable doubt. Now, AKR, this was a few years after Einstein, in fact, it could be the year that Einstein passed away. I don't know if it had anything to do with it. But AKR took up the paper and decided that he was going to have what he said, unreasonable doubt, and challenged the paper. And was able to show that Einstein's conclusion was in fact wrong. This was a precursor to the great RayChaudhuri equation paper. Now, what is striking is that AKR didn't have a job at the time. He was on leave vacancy at Ashutosh College. So imagine a 20-something-year-old with no job taking up, in general relativity, Albert Einstein for his first major work. I have not heard of or seen any example like this ever in my career. The other thing that struck me about him was why, when he had such a head start with the RayChaudhuri equation, he couldn't actually derive the great theorems of Hawking and Penrose, which came later in the 60s. So we didn't ask him in an interview. And he was very categorical. He said, oh, no, that was not my agenda. Mark his words. This was not my agenda. I was more concerned whether it's possible to have a singularity-free cosmology. I did not want to prove that singularities were here to stay. So even though that was fashionable, that was what the world was chasing, singularity theorems, he had decided he was going to follow his own dream, his own passion. And like Professor Ashit Banerjee mentioned, this passion continued till the end. After a short gap, he revived his interest in singularity-free cosmologies with the idea of coarse graining or spatial averages. He was trying to write down a set of criteria for singularity-free cosmologies, and indeed managed to make some progress following the work of Senovia, as Ashita just mentioned. And I was amazed because this is again a new idea. The idea of taking averages to outline a criteria for singularities wasn't actually there too much before. The work was then completed by Senovia in a series of very nice papers, with some modifications. But what I wanted to say is that the last paper was published in the year of AKR's demise. So just look at the sweep. I have not heard or seen scientists like this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Parthuda. So I know that many friends would like to say a few words. I would like to do that, but I think we have time for other talk. So we conclude this session here, and we shall wait for the next session to begin. Thank you very much.
I now call upon Dr. Ritoman Chatterjee to introduce the AKR Memorial Lecturer, the speaker, and also I invite Professor Ashit Banerjee to chair the Memorial Lecture.